Here we go, episode 162 of The Hardline. Michael Merlo, John Michael Masiri, here with you. That's episode after the Super Bowl, and we're going to react to all of it, plus all the offseason rumors that have already started 3 days after. JM, the Chiefs, what's the term people are using? The devil is down, the devil is dead. Yeah. The Chiefs are done, and we're going to talk about whether or not this dynasty is over. I can't wait for that conversation. But before we get there, JM, how are you today?
I'm doing good. I think just as a football fan, I think people should be happy, unless you're a Eagles hater. But look past that for a second. I think a lot of myths were broken in this Super Bowl. My belief in the football gods was brought back to life here, right? We finally saw a highly paid running back win the Super Bowl, the best running back in the NFL win a Super Bowl, and we finally saw that the Chiefs are mortal, right? They're not just invincible and are never going to go down. So I'm feeling good as a football fan in general.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't feel good about this. But credit to guys like Jalen Hurts and obviously Saquon Barkley, who seem like great people and great leaders. And, you could be happy for individuals. And I'll say I was never the biggest Saquon guy when he was with the Giants, but he achieved a goal, and I guess I could say I'm happy for him.
Right.
There are worse people out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, Saquon is a great guy, great talent. I was saying, the Giants could use somebody like that. I feel like he'd be a really good fit if he were to ever go to the Giants, Saquon. I think you guys should look into that.
You think so?
I feel like that could work.
It's funny, before the show started, you had mentioned Hurts and Barkley doing all this media. It's funny how polar opposite they are.
Oh,
because
100%.
Barkley is so outgoing, such a friendly guy, and Hurts is just so reserved, and that's fine. But I felt like he wasn't going to go to Disney World. That's how I kind of felt when I saw the commercial. Oh, you're going to Disney World, the MVP. Eli's been there twice, by the way, but can't go to Canton anyway.
Yeah, in the days where the term nonchalant has become very apparent, Jalen Hurts is like the nonchalant final boss.
Nonchalant king.
Yeah.
Did
you even see Jimmy Fallon? They were doing the Eagles offensive line came out and they all did a shotgun together with Jimmy Fallon and Jalen Hurts just didn't drink the beer. Yeah. He poured it on Landon Dickerson.
Yeah. Good job, Jalen. And Jimmy Fallon, by the way, so corny. Jesus, how do people watch that show on a daily basis?
I was watching the interview and it's like everything they say, he laughs. It's a forced laugh.
It's so bad. That is so bad. Yeah. And for the non-political reasons, by the way, I don't care.
Right.
It's just not entertaining.
In general, it's just forced humor.
You'd be better off putting Scott Van Pelt in that situation.
Yeah.
And that would be more entertaining.
Look at SVP getting his flowers.
I love SVP. He's hysterical.
Yeah, he is.
He's got that podcast, too. He does a podcast, and he just rants about things that happen in life. Should I?
Well, this is kind of that.
Yeah, I could rant here. Yeah. I could definitely rant here. We're going to talk about the game a little bit, recap it, and then we're going to talk what's going on with the Chiefs, what's going to happen. And I want to have a little not a GOAT debate, but kind of where we stand with Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes after another Super Bowl loss for Mahomes. So I'm excited to do that. We are going to start just talking about the game, our thoughts on the game, though, on Sunday, which was absolutely terrible. Everything about the game was bad. The Eagles winning was bad. The Eagles blowing them out was bad. The halftime show was atrocious. I mean, everything about Sunday, besides the people we were with and the food we ate, was bad.
Yeah, a lot of bad. A lot of good for the Eagles side, obviously. I can't believe this game went the way it did. I mean, I don't think anybody out there was not surprised if they would have woken up at the end of the fourth quarter and seen that score. Just not great football, a crappy football game. And now the Kansas City Chiefs, who have 3 Super Bowls within the last 7 or 8 years, their 2 Super Bowl losses have been extremely ugly and kind of the same story.
Mm-hmm. They're the same exact stories. And the interesting part about this, and the thing that I'm most shocked about looking back on it, is you saw this for whatever it was, 4 years ago. And Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they made 0 adjustments throughout the game. And I don't know if there was anything they could have done, right? I mean, their offensive line was so bad. They were so banged up. And that defensive line is unbelievable. That defense overall was unbelievable. By the way, sidetrack, Brady had an awful game doing commentary, looking back on the whole thing. Not once did they bring up the secondary and how great of a game they played.
Yeah.
Like, not the interceptions. I don't care about the interceptions. Throughout the game. I mean, there was a
Honestly,
reason why Mahomes couldn't throw the ball.
It's tough for me to comment on this because I didn't hear a lot of, you're watching the Super Bowl, you're with a bunch of people and you're talking, whatever, so I didn't hear the commentary too much. But all I know is Greg Olsen needs his leg back. I will say, I did appreciate Brady. It is nice in that situation, a guy who's played in more Super Bowls than anybody else, to provide some sort of insight. So in terms of that, I feel like Brady is better suited as a pregame guy, halftime show, maybe just giving you little pieces and bringing him in to explain something quick. But I don't know if he's a good play-by-play sidekick. I don't think that's what he's meant for.
I don't know. You could tell that secondary was playing unbelievable football.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it wasn't mentioned. And this was backed up by other people as well. Like, they did not mention it. And it's not really Burkhart's job to do that. Burkhart's the play-by-play guy. No. He's got to tell you the story of what's going on in the field. That's the commentator's job, and he didn't do that. So I know he's over-criticized. I get that. I know he was probably smiling watching Mahomes get sacked 6 times, knowing that the GOAT debate is probably over. But I don't know. There's stuff to work on. There is certainly stuff to work on.
For now, it's over. Patrick Mahomes still has a lot of career left.
We're going to table that. We're going to table that discussion. Yeah. But the game was shocking. I mean, the game was shocking.
Some of the things, just reflecting back on what we were discussing last week, one of the big concerns, or not concerns we had, one of the main talking points we were talking about was that Chiefs offense facing the Eagles defense and how it was going to go. Mm-hmm. And me and you were talking about Joe Thuney and his impact and how great he's played. And we were saying, well, do you keep Thuney at left tackle, or do you go to the Eagles' bigger threat, which is the interior of their defensive line? Do you slide Thuney back to his left guard spot, his natural position? They decide to keep Thuney at left tackle, and it ended up being not even mattering because Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, Josh Sweat especially, had an insane game coming off of the edge, and Joe Thuney was getting beat all day long. I mean, bad plays by Joe Thuney.
And I thought even at halftime, Reed could have reconsidered that and moved him inside. He did not do that.
Well, you said it yourself, not a lot of adjustments.
No adjustments. Yeah. Nothing. I mean, even there was one play after they were down 27-0. It was the second drive of the second half for the Chiefs, and they finally moved the pocket. Mm-hmm. Mahomes caught the snap and just sprinted out to his right, and the line moved, and he was no real pressure, and he was able to complete a pass. And I didn't say it at the time, but why not try something like this in the first half when you're down? Jay, they didn't even try and run the ball. The first 13, 14 plays, they ran the ball once. Yeah. Meanwhile, against Buffalo, all they tried to do was establish the run. Mm-hmm. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, there was zero rhythm in the running game whatsoever. And I think that first drive, you're right, I think it was 6 pass plays in a row to start, 5 pass plays in a row to start, something like that. And, the Chiefs, with those weapons they have, it got to a certain point. We had the debate last year, right? The entire 2023 season, it felt like me and you were coming on the show and talking about the Chiefs' weapons are going to catch up to them. And you were saying, no, they're not. And I'm like, yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. It seemed to never catch up to them because they won the freaking Super Bowl. This year, though, I think maybe the Rashee Rice injury obviously has something to do with it. Travis Kelce, another year heading towards retirement. That has something to do with it. But at a certain point, no matter how great your quarterback is and the chemistry he has with his Hall of Fame tight end and the offensive mind of Andy Reid and that Chiefs defense, throwing the ball to Juju Smith-Schuster and DeAndre Hopkins and at this point, I think it's safe to say, washed up Travis Kelce, it gets to a point where you can't just rely on Xavier Worthy to do everything.
No, and we'll discuss what they have to add this offseason, which is obviously going to be another wide receiver to go along with Rice and to go along with Worthy, who looks like he's going to be a fantastic player for them. Thanks, Buffalo Bills. But yeah, this wasn't the reason why they lost, though, because I think if he has time, they're going to make plays. Yeah. I mean, he's going to get the ball to his receivers, whoever he needs to get the ball to. Kelce was an absolute no-show. I really do believe it's time for him to go. Yeah. I don't think it's a crazy statement. There were some plays. I mean, there was one play where, remember the play where Mahomes did a crazy escape job and he got like 4 yards, but there was a holding call. You see Kelsey on that play?
This is viral. It's all over social media. And when I watched it the first couple times, I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I still think it's ridiculous, but I will give him a slight benefit of the doubt and say that he saw the holding flag and whatever, but you still don't do that. You don't do that on a football field. And you don't show up your teammates putting your palms to the sky. No, you don't do that.
Because the play's still going on.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just standing there, and then the guy that he was supposed to block or was defending him went and tackled Mahomes. Imagine he got a good job. Imagine he got a shot on Mahomes.
Yeah, you got to protect your quarterback.
So I don't know.
Thank God this team did not win the Super Bowl, because I'm just looking right now at the AFC West standings, and it has the points forwarded and points allowed. This team had a 59-point differential. A 15-2 team had a 59-point differential. The Los Angeles Chargers and Denver Broncos, who lost 13 games combined, have better point differentials than the Chiefs. At a certain point, the football gods stepped in and were like, okay, this is not how things work. For the balance of the universe, we're not letting this team.
And I think you were even convinced that, we knew this going in. We knew they weren't this dominant team. They were 15-2, yes, but they're great late in the games. Maybe they get a call or two, whatever. You want to throw that in there. I mean, they didn't get anything on Sunday.
No, I was actually that ended quickly for me. I was keeping track of all those penalties.
Yeah.
And, you had the first drive of the game, that sketchy penalty, the offensive pass interference on A.J. Brown. And then there was another call that went back in the Eagles' direction. And then after that, it was sort of even. The refs were not a conversation for this game on either side.
No, I mean, and again, when the game is that lopsided, it's definitely not going to be a conversation. Yeah. I didn't think they got any whistle, though. They didn't get anything.
The one thing I will say, I talked about it last week. The Chiefs did a very good job of stopping Saquon Barkley. They did exactly what I thought was going to happen, which was bringing a lot of guys into the box, not getting too aggressive with blitzes, just sort of staying to their run gaps. And they did a great job stopping the run. I mean, Saquon's 25 for 59 was by far his worst game of the year.
Yeah.
But Jalen Hurts played great, obviously Super Bowl MVP. He didn't even need to throw the ball that much because of how great that defense was playing and the field position they were getting and all that stuff. But if that game was a little closer, you would have definitely seen an even stronger Jalen Hurts performance, I think. I think he played much better. He obviously won the Super Bowl MVP, but his stats aren't crazy good. I think he would have had a better game statistics-wise if that game was a little closer.
Yeah, he was on, and his running ability, too. I mean, the amount of draws they had, designed runs they had for him, he did a great job. I think 11 rushes, 72 yards for him, and obviously a tush-push touchdown. That was funny, actually. The conversation on Fallon with Barkley and Hurts about the tush-push.
Yes, that was funny.
Then Barkley's like, I guess I'm the pusher of the tush.
Yeah. I wonder what they call it.
Well, it's not brotherly shove and it's not tush push.
Yeah. Probably some sort of football coding that they use.
That's what I was thinking. It's probably not inappropriate.
It's probably boring.
It's probably just something they don't want to say out loud.
Right.
But I'm sure they change it from year to year.
Oh, of course.
Interesting. I feel like brotherly shove is better if you're an Eagles fan.
Yes.
If you hate the tush push works because you're making fun of it.
Right.
Like you're pushing the guy's ass.
At what point, though, is this, like, some teams have already done it a little bit. When are teams just going to go all in and be like, let's add this full-time, practice it this offseason?
I think it's getting banned.
I don't think so.
I think Goodell is feeling it. He doesn't like it.
So then at that point, not only do you have to ban the tush push, but all those fun clips we see of running backs that get in these little scrums and then the offensive linemen run in and push them for 5-10 yards for a touchdown or a first down.
You're getting rid of that?
You got to get rid of that too.
Do you?
Yeah, of course. Because
the college rule?
The rule is going to have to be you cannot force an offensive player forward.
Okay.
As a
QB sneak
fellow
is still
offensive
available.
player, you cannot push your own. Yeah, QB. Oh, of course, QB sneak's still available.
Because that was my question. How are they going to differentiate
But you cannot
it?
physically put your hand or any part of your body on my back and shove me forward.
Well, college is the same way. College, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So it would just be the college rule, essentially. I don't know. That's interesting. I think Goodell, I've read that Goodell doesn't like the play. It doesn't. It's not enjoyable. It's really not enjoyable.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
It's so boring.
And I think either way, if they got rid of this, I think the Eagles would still be one of the reason why they're so good at it is because they have a great offensive line, obviously, but Hurts is what makes it so good because the guy can squat a freaking house.
Yeah, he gets so low and he's able to sneak through the gaps, and they'll still be fine at a QB sneak, but
it won't be an automatic 1 or 2 yards every time. But
right, and you're taking away from Saquon, you're taking away from other guys.
Yeah.
Not that that's gonna factor into the decision making of Goodell. But just as a viewer, it sucks sometimes.
Well, I think a lot of people, when it comes to yearly awards or at the end of his career, I think they're going to take definitely the rushing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts with a grain of salt when they're looking at his legacy and looking at his statistics. I think when you see 15 rushing touchdowns every year, you're going to be like, okay.
They pushed his ass to the end zone. Yeah. I got a good video of us on the train. And
oh my God,
we're coming home from an
time.
Eagles-Jets game. And the Jets, it was the last time Hurts lost to an AFC team. And we're getting on the train. We're with a bunch of Eagle and Jet fans. And I had a couple drinks that day. And we're getting onto the train. And I just start videotaping myself. And I go, all right, guys, we're going to run the tush push. Everybody get on. And we're going to push your ass into the end zone, into the train or something like that. It was funny.
And you were surrounded by a lot of Eagles fans, which made it even
Some
better.
Eagle fans were laughing at me, too. They were like, this guy's funny. Anything else on this disgusting game, JM, before we move to what's going to happen with the Chiefs here?
No. I mean, no, not really. I mean, it just went according to plan for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts played great. I think he's, obviously he's going to be respected much better now, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. And, the Eagles freaking did it.
Shout out to Vic Fangio. I'm sure he heard all week, 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes, and to have that kind of performance against that team is very impressive.
Well, that stat lives on, the one I was telling you about.
There's a lot of stats that live on.
The stat lives
traveling east, the traveling west.
Yep.
That lives on too.
Yep. The team that had the bye week versus the team that didn't have the bye week, that one lives on.
All right, so we'll look out for it next year.
Keep it. You know what also lives on?
What?
Super Bowl loss hangover. Could happen. Team that loses the Super Bowl.
All right, here we go.
Hangover. You love that stat.
I do love that stat. Is the dynasty over? The dynasty is not over.
Yes. Dynasty over. Done.
The reason why the dynasty's not over is because the Patriots went 10 years without winning a Super Bowl. So this team has, 4 and 6 years? They've been in the AFC Championship game 7 straight years. I mean, if they continue to go to the AFC Championship game and maybe they lose an AFC Championship game or they lose another Super Bowl, but in 2 years from now, they win another 2, that's 5 in 10, 12 years? That's a dynasty. This dynasty is not dead yet.
The Patriots...
The script is not done.
So the Patriots, they had 2 dynasties.
Because I consider it 20 years. A 20-year dynasty.
I don't know.
6 Super
I don't
Bowls.
consider it that. I consider them having 2 separate dynasties. And then when you look at Belichick and Brady specifically, that's a different conversation. You're talking about a reign of 6 Super Bowls together. But when you're talking about a dynasty is the same team, essentially. A lot of key components are still there. You have Deion Branch and Tom Brady when he's 20 years old, and Lawrence Maroney and some guys there in the earlier years versus Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman. Those are 2 completely different teams.
So this,
all you're missing is the only things that are the same are Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Now, the one thing I will say about this current dynasty here for the Chiefs, it's a weak one, because if you go and look at the real dynasties, the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Niners, the Patriots, those teams were dominant. The last few seasons here, this team, they weren't dominant. I mean, they were really good. But were they dominant? I mean, you brought up the point differential. They were not even close to dominant this season.
Well, I think this could go one of 2 ways. You could use that as a criticism, or you could use that to praise them. Because the Chiefs, I think, within this dynasty that they have, or had,
it's not done.
You had some teams that in the earlier days you identified with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes playing MVP-style football and offensive firepower. And then you move closer to these past couple of years, and Patrick Mahomes has had sort of middle-of-the-road regular seasons, and they haven't put up crazy offensive numbers, and they've relied more on that defense and played a more gritty style of football and clutch play late in games and kind of wearing you down. So they've changed play styles over the years. They've won in multiple different ways, which is a compliment to them. But at the same time, yeah, they weren't they were the least dominant 15-2 team I think we've ever seen in NFL history, and there's stats to back that up.
I want you to know how far I'm going to go with this. Screw Super Bowl loser hangover. Patrick Mahomes is going to win the MVP next season.
Okay.
He's going to win the MVP of the league next season.
If he has the current disposal of weapons,
he's not going to have that.
He's not coming close.
He's not going to have that.
Okay.
My prediction is they're going to go out. They're going to get a running back. They're going to get a wide receiver. They're going to draft a couple tackles. They'll probably lose Trey Smith, but replace him.
To me, the Chiefs' outlook for next year, listen, they're never going to be like, when I say the dynasty isn't over, I'm not saying they're going to go 7-10 next year. I think they'll still be a playoff team next year, but they're going to have to have – this is the most crucial offseason the Chiefs have had in the past 7 or 8 years. There's a possibility Travis Kelce retires. Even if he doesn't, he's not the same player he was, right? He had 3 touchdowns in the regular season this year and was not really much of a factor in the playoffs this year except for the Texans game, really.
Yeah.
Pending free agents. I mean, I'm looking at this list right now. Nick Bolton, that is one of the key pieces of your defense.
Yep.
Hollywood Brown, whatever.
Goodbye.
DeAndre Hopkins, goodbye. Kareem Hunt, goodbye. Justin Reed, that's a key piece to your defense as well.
Goodbye.
Trey Smith,
That's big.
Huge part of your offensive line. That's big. DJ Humphries, left tackle.
That's
big.
Humphrey sucks, and he got benched.
Yeah.
He sucks.
It does. Tershawn Wharton, underrated. He was a key piece to that interior defensive line this year. That could hurt if he leaves. So, the Chiefs are a good organization where they can find guys to fill in, and they're good at player development and all that stuff. But at a certain point, when you have a lot of key guys like that, especially Bolton, who's just been so good for them, I worry. I do worry that they're not going to be able to fill this roster up and bring it back. And when you lose a Super Bowl, that does things to your team.
Bolton would be a big loss. I'm not going to disagree with you there. Trey Smith, they're definitely going to lose Trey Smith, and that's going to be a big loss. I also believe they'll be able to replace Trey Smith, but the biggest thing for them is going to be getting tackles. It's not going to be, if they are able to draft a tackle in the first round and sign the right tackles or whatever, they'll be able to replace the guard there. As long as they're good on the outside, they'll be fine.
I mean, you don't feel, though, that, like I was talking before, the cliche with the football gods and saying that the Chiefs were due for this thing to come crashing down at some point. You don't feel that now, the next year after the Super Bowl loss, having a season where luck was on your side throughout the entire year. We talked about the point differential and the record and how crazy that was. You got teams on the rise in that division with Denver and Los Angeles. You don't think at some point maybe they're going to have to face some adversity? Nobody would have said it about the 49ers last year, right? And then all of a sudden, a couple injuries happen. Niners are picking in the top 12 this year. Not saying that far. I'm not saying that far, but you don't think maybe a 10-7, 11-6 is on its way?
I think when you have Andy Reid and you have Patrick Mahomes, I think anything's possible. Again, this is a huge offseason. I'm not disagreeing with you. Like we just mentioned, I think they need a running back. You can't go into the season with Pacheco. They need some talent back there because they have to take a load off of their quarterbacks back in the postseason. They do. Yeah. They need another weapon. Kelsey's a big question mark. Is he going to retire? Cap situation-wise, they might actually want him to retire. He's $20 million on the cap next year, so they'd have to rework the contract to make the necessary moves. But we saw them get blown out in a Super Bowl, have basically the same thing happen, and they fixed their needs the next season and won it. They went to the AFC Championship game, and the next year they won it.
They won it. But I think we're kind of comparing apples to oranges there. I don't know. The context is important there. You had Tyreek Hill still in his prime there. You had Travis Kelce still in his prime, right? I don't know if we're still in that same space with.
Are you going to get Rice back? Looked like he was going to be a number one wide receiver.
But the only thing we could compare this to is the Patriots, right? What happened to the Patriots when they lost the Super Bowl? And, even though they went 10 years without winning one, year after year, they're winning the AFC East, which was never, they never had any competition in that division really anyways. But they're winning the AFC East. They're getting the 1 seed, getting the 2 seed. They're staying competitive year after year, winning 12 games basically every season. the Chiefs are not the Patriots. I know that's the fun comparison to make. Mahomes is not Brady and Reed is not Belichick, and I don't think that this team can sustain the success that the Patriots did like the way they did it. I just don't see it similarly.
I agree with you, because when New England would run out of talented players because they couldn't pay them, they replaced certain positions. They were good in the areas they needed to be, and they were just smarter than you, and they would beat you that way.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, I mean, Andy Reid's one of the greatest coaches of all time. We talked about that last week, but he's not Belichick, and I don't think I agree with you. I agree with what you just said. But on the contrary, I do believe they'll be able to replace the talent. They are very good at player development. We know that. And they're good at player development in certain areas where Belichick wasn't as great. I think, skill position-wise, they're better 100%. So it's going to be very interesting. I still trust them, because even going into next season, the Chargers can make a couple of moves and put themselves right into, the conversation to be the favorite to win that division. But
Denver.
I don't think Denver's going to make enough moves to do it.
I don't know how.
And you have a second-year quarterback.
Yeah.
I still think as long as the Chiefs fix the tackles, get another weapon, salvage whatever they can to the defense, I think they're going to be the favorites to win the division.
Yeah, they'll be the favorites to win the division. I don't know if they'll be the favorites to make it out of the AFC. We got to see how the AFC shakes up this offseason. The Bills are going to be right back.
I think Buffalo's going to make a lot. I think Buffalo was the worst team we are going to see out of Buffalo in the next 2 or 3 years.
Right. And
I think it'll be better.
Yeah, and maybe now they're looking at this opportunity, even though they lost to Kansas City, but they're seeing that they lost the Super Bowl, and they're kind of thinking what we're thinking, saying, "Oh, the Chiefs are mortal, right? They're not indestructible." So
how could you have hope if you're a Buffalo fan?
Yeah,
in this matchup,
I don't know how you could. Just one more thing about the Brady Mahomes thing.
You want to move to that? That's
sure.
Our next discussion.
Right. We could move to that. I'm not coming from a point of bias at all here. If anything, it could be in the opposite direction, because I'm about to defend Tom Brady, which is crazy out of me, considering him and David Ortiz are like my 2 least favorite people to ever walk the planet, and Dan Hurley. Wow. Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes and their primes and their runs and everything like that. And listen, Mahomes is still very much in his prime. Obviously, we're not talking about a 36-year-old quarterback here. Are we forgetting how great Brady was? Like, the regular seasons that Mahomes has had these past couple years, Tom Brady never really went through that. Right?
No, he did.
I want to read.
Did. I have it up.
Hold on.
I have it up.
Hold on. I want to read this stat, okay? My brother sent this to me. Our statistician, Joe Messere. From 2017 to 2024, Mahomes has a passer rating of 102.1. The league average passer rating in that span was 90.1. From 2007 to 2014, which was one of Brady's peaks, right? Played it for a long time. It's tough to say which one, but around the same age range, right? And they didn't even win any Super Bowls in this span. Or 2014, they finally did. From 2007 to 2014, Brady had a 101.5 passer rating, 0.6 less than Mahomes. The league average in that span was 84.7. So the difference in the passer rating compared to the rest of the league, we talked about this with Eli last week, that it's relative, it matters, football's changed, right? Brady's clearly better compared to his competition. So, I mean, you can read me whatever stats you want to read me here, but I just personally think that Brady's run was more impressive than Mahomes was in terms of the consistency.
Listen, Brady had a couple of down seasons, whether it was in the middle. I would agree. I mean, I am not going to punish Mahomes for having like his competition. The football's just, the quarterbacks are better, right? The quarterbacks are just better right now than they were, I think, back then. That would prove it. I'm not going to punish him for that. There's a couple of down years here, but that's why I have the confidence in Mahomes to bounce back and say, screw it. I'm gonna have an MVP season. As long as the things line up, it's gonna be an MVP season. Because we saw Brady in 2009 throw for 28 touchdowns, 13 interceptions at a passer rating of 96.2, and then the next year win the MVP, 36 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I mean, these guys are so ultra talented. I mean, again, how about 2006, 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Next season, with Randy Moss, 50 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, one of the greatest seasons ever, MVP.
Right. Well, yes. Okay. But now we're talking about Patrick Mahomes' back-to-back seasons, 28, 29 years old, 53 touchdowns, 25 interceptions, 93 passer rating.
No, not good. Yeah. This has got to be a big year. And let me say this, because it might sound like I'm defending Mahomes. That game the other night, to me, solidified it. Like, I don't think we're ever going to get to a point because, and Brady was on the herd on Friday before the Super Bowl, and he did a segment just talking about how he would line up and know because he was like, my advantage wasn't my speed, wasn't even my arm, it was my brain, because I knew exactly what the defense was going to do because of how much film I studied. And he would put his teams in the perfect positions, and that's the difference here. That's the difference in the game on Sunday. That's the difference between the GOAT debate, because Brady was so much more prepared and just so much smarter, I think. And this isn't a knock on Mahomes. Mahomes is ultra talented. He's more talented than him, if you want to say that, fine. He's never going to have that kind of brain.
Right.
He was a second coach.
Yes. I mean, Mahomes is he's a very smart quarterback. I'm sure he works very hard. He prepares great. He's obviously learning from a great coach his whole career. But Tom Brady was basically another coach on the field. Yeah.
So to me, I don't think. And I was sent a video last night, and it said people forget how good Brady was, and it was a game where he threw for 512 yards on Monday Night Football against the Dolphins. I don't know if you remember it, and it was every throw he made in that game. I'm sitting there like, holy crap. Like, you forget. You got to go back and just watch it. I'm going to go back tonight and like watch highlights from 2007 from, one of his MVP years, or 2010, how good he was, because you forget.
Yeah. And I don't think, and you're right, Tom Brady's never played that bad in a Super Bowl before. The Chiefs and the Patriots never lost a Super Bowl in that style before. Chiefs have done it twice now, right? They have a 40-point, or even more than that. They lost 31-9 in 2022, right?
Yep.
So that's a 22-point differential. Yeah, 18. 40 points. They lost by 18 this year and 22.
Brady's 8-4.
Brady's is 15.
Yeah, 8-4-3.
You're talking about a 15-point differential in 3 Super Bowls versus a 20-2. I mean, a 40-2.
And when he went down by 25, he came back and won the freaking game. So.
That's like we talk about it with basketball, right? That the LeBron comeback in 2016 was like what solidified, or 2017, no, 2016 is what solidified him as the GOAT in our eyes. Same thing with Tom Brady, I think. Like 28-3 winning your.
Was that the 15 or 16 season?
That was the 2006. I think that was 16. That was like we had the Cavs come back. You had the Cubs winning for the first time in 108 years with a ridiculous World Series.
But was it a Super Bowl in 16? I'm just going to look it up.
16 into 17, I believe.
Okay.
And then 15 into 16 was Denver and Carolina.
Trying to see.
Confirm that for me.
Yes, it was. Yeah. So it was the 16 season into 17. Yeah. And let's just read his stats in 2016. Hold on, it's loading, but I had it. Now it's loading.
Pro Football Reference always being a little.
Well, no, it's my computer.
They gotta chill with the ads too.
This
ads
thing is
all over the place.
This thing's getting shot, but it's
Mike,
running a lot.
Crap. Watch, I'll beat you right now. Oh no, you're good.
2016, 28 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, passer rating 112 that year.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, he was 39.
Yeah.
He was 39 that year.
28 touchdowns, 2 picks. Oh, that's in 12 games, too. Oh, right. That was the year that he was suspended for the beginning of the year.
So, what if he played 16 games?
A lot. It would have been something good, that's for sure.
4 more.
112 passer rating.
Yeah, he's a freak. Yeah. He's so freaking good. I'm going to go back tonight. I'm going to watch Best of Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's okay. Mahomes could be the second. It's fine. Yep. You could be the second greatest of all time. And I'm happy I never jumped. A lot of people before Sunday were saying Mahomes is the GOAT. He's the greatest player I've ever seen. He might be the most talented player I've ever seen, but he's not the best. And I'm happy I never jumped.
I still don't think he is.
He's more talented than Rodgers. I think he is.
I don't think he's more talented than Rodgers. I don't even know if he's the most talented guy in the league.
You think Allen?
Yeah. Jackson, too.
Allen's a freak. Good for Josh, by the way. You want to talk MVP quick?
Yeah. Well, let me just say real quick. I think I'm a huge Lamar defender. I think what Lamar doesn't get over Mahomes because of the arm talent, even though Lamar's massively improved as a passer, obviously, but just the raw talent, right? I think Mahomes has him there with the arm. But Allen, he's got him with the legs, and the arm, I think, is just as impressive.
Yeah, I don't think he has them with the arms. Obviously, the leg he has them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're weird. It's like if you put all of them together.
Right. If
You
you
have
put like Allen's size with
Mahomes' arm.
Mahomes' arm, Jackson's speed and agility, like
You have the greatest athlete of all time.
absolutely ridiculous.
It's like making LeBron, basically.
I don't like the thing with Rodgers. He was kind of that guy who broke into the league with the whole extending plays and Houdiniac style of play. The touch and the accuracy that guy, him and Drew Brees, but especially Rodgers, the quick release, the touch.
Yep.
Even to this day, his release is crazy. All these guys are great in their own ways.
Yeah. I think I'm taking Mahomes. I think if I need a game, I need to win a game. Well, it's not to win a game. It's because the discussion would not be to win a game. It's really just preference.
Yeah.
Who do you find to be the most talented quarterback?
Yep.
Maybe I got to go back and watch Aaron Rodgers highlights.
Yeah, I just think context matters. Like, you look at Josh Allen right now, and I said this to my brother on the phone the other day. At what point does Josh Allen start getting treated like Aaron Rodgers? I know personality has to do with it. There's some things, narratives that we can't control that get brought into it. But at what point does Josh Allen not win Super Bowls and just start stacking up awards and MVPs
And gets treated like Rodgers.
Because Lamar's dealing with it already.
The
And Rodgers
issue,
has great playoff stats.
Yeah, he does. There's a couple of dud games in there from him.
Yeah.
Where they had legit teams, especially late.
Right. Those Giants losses.
The Giant losses are bad. You lost to a 9-7 Giants team.
Atlanta was bad.
Atlanta's a bad loss.
Niners were bad. That one's probably the worst.
The Niners 13-10. That 9-win Niners team is the worst. At home in the snow, the team from the West Coast comes
I
and
was
beats
even
you.
talking about the Niners when Raheem Mostert ran for like
no, but they
200
lost
yards.
to a better team. You know, they were the 1 seed that year. They're the higher seed. The game was in San Francisco. That one I could live with. I'm talking about the one at home in the snow on the Saturday night.
That was bad.
That's probably the worst one.
Right. But there's also some that he lost, and it was like, dude,
it's not his fault.
How much could? Yeah, like the Seahawks.
Yes.
That was bad.
And you're on the road.
Yep. Even that Buccaneers game played great.
I think if he can, if
Kevin
Allen
King freaking blew that game up.
Okay, here's the problem. Allen is dealing with Brady. If Brady played in the NFC and Rodgers consistently lost to Brady, who we all said at the time was the best quarterback of this era and will soon be the greatest of all time, I think it would be different.
It's a good point.
Allen's playing the greatest of our generation. Well, of this generation, not ours. Obviously, Brady is. If Rodgers was playing Brady, he might get a little bit more slack.
Rodgers really just had to deal with Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, but they didn't really match up too much. I don't think the Packers ever matched up with the Saints in the playoffs.
I don't recall.
Not that I can remember. And then that one year he lost to Brady when Brady was with the Bucks. But you're talking about losses to Jimmy Garoppolo, losses to...
Don't say it. What? Don't say it.
Hall of Famer Eli Manning. Hall of Fame
run. Allen loses to Burrow this coming year. Or if Allen lost to Lamar this past season, Allen's feeling it.
Watch out for the Bengals this year.
Oh, here we
That's
go.
all I'm saying.
Freaking Bengals again. I don't need to deal with this crap. Yeah, after they lose Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins, and let's watch out for that.
They'll figure it out.
They won't. They have the cheapest owner in the league.
They'll figure it out.
That's a good point, though. That's a good point. When does Allen start to feel it?
Johnny's down by 10. I'm stressing out.
Who are they playing tonight?
Villanova.
Is Villanova ranked?
No.
In Villanova?
Yeah.
Oh, tough one. Johnny's after a huge week. Look at that.
Down by 10.
That's fine. You guys will be good.
We do this a lot, so first half suck.
They'll come back. MVP, anything? We kind of just talked about where Allen is.
Here, bro, damn, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid type MVP, so that's it.
I agree. I would have voted for Lamar, but I'm so happy for
These
Allen.
writers are out of their mind. The fact that Jamar Chase did not get a single Offensive Player of the Year vote is actually ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Triple crown.
No, that's crazy.
And then we want to talk about the Hall of Fame. The story is Eli, but if I was a Carolina Panthers fan, I'd be outside the Hall of Fame with pitchforks for Luke Kuechly.
No, Kuechly's bad.
That's bad.
Kuechly's really bad because I agree with you to an extent. If you have a peak like that, if your prime is that good, and we consider you the best at your position, one of the best players on a side of the football for more than 5 years, which was the case with Kuechly, that's bad.
Throw in a ton of first-team All-Pros, a Defensive Player of the Year award, Defensive Rookie of the Year award.
And to put the guys you put in, Gates should have gotten in last season. Okay, I agree with Gates, though. Gates is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And Sterling Sharp is a cool story. Okay, and you know what? His peak was great, too. Go look at him. He was one of the best wide receivers of his generation, had a crazy injury. So I'm happy for him as well. Jared Allen, okay, I would have voted him in, too. You didn't have a great class. You can't get Kuechly in there, at least.
But, what's the difference to me, a Luke Kuechly versus J.J. Watt, right? J.J. Watt plays 12 seasons, and he only ends up playing 33 more games than Luke Kuechly, when Luke Kuechly played 8 seasons. So if you just play a little bit longer, but you're getting hurt every other year, that's better than just playing consistent, great football, staying healthy, and being an elite player at your position. J.J. Watt's going to get in first ballot, no doubt.
Yeah.
100%. And there's no other difference, right? The playoffs, right? Luke Kuechly went to a Super Bowl. J.J. Watt never did.
Yeah.
Texans, it wasn't like he was this iconic defensive player on a Super Bowl team.
How many years did Watt play compared to Kuechly, though?
Kuechly played from 2012 to 2019, played 118 games. And J.J. Watt played from 2011 to 2022 and played in 151 games.
I feel like Watt is he's a surefire. I agree. Listen, Kuechly's a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer for me, but Watt is too.
Here's a resume.
I don't think it's the greatest comparison, though.
5-time Pro Bowler, J.J. Watt, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. That's really all you need to know after that.
Do you think they're...
And then Luke Kuechly, 5-time first-team All-Pro, same exact thing, 1-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Do you think they're punishing Kuechly for leaving early?
I think so, yeah.
For leaving the sport?
I think so.
What was he?
28 years old when he left.
What was his accolades in his last season?
Pro Bowl, second-team All-Pro.
Wow. Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
That could be it. Interesting. And Eli, obviously.
Right.
Eli not even close, just shows you that they went in and said he's not going to be first ballot.
Yeah.
They were like, he might get in. You can call me crazy. I don't know if he's getting in.
He'll get in.
I don't know if he's getting in.
I don't think he's going to get in next year.
No, he's definitely not getting in.
I think he'll get in eventually.
Because next year will be the Breeze year, and Rivers won't get in, and I would vote Rivers on the first ballot.
Rivers won't get in.
Rivers should get in.
We talked about this last week. The whole first ballot thing is just stupid.
BS. But I think Rivers should be Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I don't think he's as strong of a Hall of Famer as Drew Brees is, but I think the whole then you got to make him wait a little bit is stupid.
He's not even as strong of a Hall of Famer as Ryan. Ryan should be first ballot too. He has the MVP.
Yeah, but Rivers was better over a longer span, I think. I think Ryan had a little bit more peaks and valleys.
Okay.
And the success of the team in general, I think Rivers was a little bit better. I'd have to fact check myself on that, but
Mike, Howie Roseman's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yes, he is.
General manager of the Philadelphia Eagles has done an unbelievable job in his career of stacking talent. These rosters year to year are loaded. Even the first Super Bowl that they won, they were loaded. They were in the Super Bowl in 2022. Loaded again. They had a loaded roster last year. It fell apart. That wasn't on him. That was on the coaching. And then they're back in the Super Bowl, and they win it with this group. JM, the guy, the eye for talent, aggressive. I brought this up earlier in the week. Guys fell to him, okay? And I'm not saying he's bailed, this and that. Players fell to him. DeJean falls to him in the second round. Carter falls to him. A year where they need a corner desperately, nobody takes a defender for the first 16 picks of the draft, and the best corner in the draft falls to him, gets his biggest need, right? Nolan Smith falls to him. Nakobe Dean somehow falls to the second round years ago. These players, granted, some of them are risks.
Yeah.
Teams aren't taking them.
Nakobe Dean was a huge risk at the time.
Right. But he gets these guys. He finds a way to get these guys. But then it's not just about drafting them. It's about developing them, and we know the job they do there. So, I mean, give him credit because he's taking some risks.
That's exactly. You hit the nail right on the head. A lot of teams. I've seen the Jets, this guy fell right into their lap. And then the guy ends up being out of the league in 3 years, right? So, you could have a future Hall of Fame type prospect fall to you. If you don't have the right pieces in place and the right coaches and culture and everything like that, they won't turn out to be their full potential. So the Eagles have that in place. They have a great system in place. They have great coaching. They have great culture. All of that. Howie Roseman has done a fantastic job. He is going to be a Hall of Famer. He's gotten great talent. Zach Bond alone is
crazy.
Think about some of the great players they have this year, right? Everybody. So Saquon Barkley. You just mentioned some of the guys. DeJean, Mitchell, Zach Bond, Mekhi Becton. Really, that is a guy that had weight problems, had controversy with the Jets, had a dying relationship there, and is sort of just like you got that notification the offseason, Mekhi Becton signing with Eagles, you were like, oh, all right, the Eagles are like, screw it, we'll take a flyer on this guy. Ends up being a crucial part of their offensive line, their success this year. So, yeah, they got a great eye for talent. They got a great job in developing these players.
I talked about it last week. How could the Eagles possibly, if they were to win this Super Bowl, go on their own little mini run here, win 2 out of 3, something like that, get to another one, maybe win another one. Is Hurts capable of being the guy to lead that? Because if you look at guys that have won multiple Super Bowls in a short span, almost creating a mini dynasty or creating a dynasty, Hurts would probably be at the bottom of the list in terms of talent of those kinds of quarterbacks, like the elite historic greats.
Yeah.
Is he capable? Is he talented enough?
No, he's not talented enough. Let me just explain.
It's a tough question.
He's talented enough that he's proven if you can get the team in that position, he can help propel them to a Super Bowl. Okay. But he's not that guy where, look at this roster. Let's be realistic here, okay? This roster is freaking ridiculous. It is loaded. The fact that there's this many good players on a roster in a salary cap sport is just absolutely ridiculous. But
it's going to come back to haunt them.
What?
The cap, a couple of years.
Oh yeah, I mean, but they just seem to pull guys out of the woodworks and turn them into Pro Bowlers. So does it really matter? As long as they have the roster that can do it, Jalen Hurts is your guy, right? He's worth every penny to help you win a Super Bowl, and he can win a Super Bowl. But when you get into the dog days of maybe the roster isn't as good, and you got a couple injuries and you lose a couple guys, he's not going to be that guy that could carry you through those dark times like Josh Allen has with the Bills,
right?
Where we thought they were going to enter an age where Bills might not win the division. Bold take. Bills are missing the playoffs next year. But no, Josh Allen plays like MVP, and they're back in the AFC Championship. Jalen Hurts isn't that kind of guy.
Sirianni's going to be the highest paid coach in the league, or one of them after this one. He's going to he's got one more year left, so I'm sure they're going to reward him with a new contract. Yep. If I told you that before the year, if you told me that week 3 or 4 of this season, that Nick Sirianni would become the highest paid coach or one of the 3 highest paid coaches in the entire league by the end of the season, I would have called you crazy, because I thought he was getting fired at some point. Yeah. Like many did, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, me and you obviously have had a little bit of differing opinions about Sirianni. I never thought he was, this great head coach, but you weren't
firing him like I
wasn't firing, right? I wasn't after week 4 like some of the Eagles fans wanted for him to get fired. You remember after that game in Cleveland?
I'll tell you what, that game against Cleveland where he was screaming at whether it were Brown fans or Eagle fans after a disgusting win against Deshaun Watson and the Browns, I really thought that was a low point.
Did you listen to WIP this week?
I did not. I did not. I saw a couple of clips, which I've used a couple of pointers, like the Brady pointer. They were like, Brady did a terrible job. They did not emphasize enough how great the backfield, defensive backs played in the game. I got that from WIP, and I noticed it. I'm like, he never said anything. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's a shock, though. And we'll see. You don't know what's going to happen, right? We had the same thing happen last year with the new offensive coordinator and the new defensive coordinator after losing Steichen and Gannon. Kellen Moore's gone, taking the job with the Saints. Fangio's staying, which is big.
Fangio will never leave. I mean, they'll just make him the
know.
highest paid coordinator. He's never going to be a head coach again.
Yeah, I don't know why they would want why he would want to leave anyways. And honestly, it's my little bold take. I understand people. You have personal goals. You want to achieve. If you have an opportunity to be an NFL head coach, you take that. If I'm Kellen Moore, though, why not wait it out for another year? Why not have another great year maybe and do the Ben Johnson route? And the Lions didn't even end up winning a playoff game this year, and Ben Johnson got the job that he specifically wanted. Why take the only job left on the table at the end of the year?
It's a really good question. Some guys do have preferences, and like Ben Johnson's not the only story of coaches saying, I'm going to wait it out a year. It's interesting. I think Kellen Moore has been doing this for a while, though, and he's interviewed in a lot of places over the past 4 or 5 years. I mean, he's been a name. We've been talking about Kellen Moore as a potential head coach for how many years now, since Dak started over there really playing well.
We're Unk status, because I remember Kellen Moore as a player, like vividly. I remember watching the Jets play the Cowboys, and Kellen Moore was a starting quarterback.
So it's interesting. There's one of 32 jobs, JM, and if you have a chance, if they're offering you the job, I know it's not a good situation. I know it's not the greatest franchise, but
it's not the greatest situation. Is not a nice way to put it.
No, it's a terrible situation.
I mean, what is the future there? You have an aging superstar in Alvin Kamara, who's a running back. You have zero quarterbacks.
The spin zone is at some point when the cap situation's right and the draft pick is where you like it, you're going to be able to mold this franchise into something you want, and you're probably getting good security here because you're going to have probably if he got a 4 or 5 year contract, he might get those 4 years to really try and fix this thing.
I think the Saints are this way.
They're loyal.
They should be loyal here. Okay, this is a. I'm sure they've already had this discussion with Kellen Moore. If I'm Kellen Moore, I'm in that room talking to them, that meeting, and I'm like, listen,
this is tough.
You got to give me years here, because the first year it's not going to be pretty. You can't have this team win 3 games next year and all of a sudden you want to send Kellen Moore to the curb. This cannot be a Gerard Mayo type of situation.
Their GM has been there for 23 years, Mickey Loomis. He's been there for 23 years, and a lot of people stayed away from that job because of him.
But honestly, well deserved, because you think about it in sports, like, it's such a tough job where year after year in a cap sport to be putting out a Super Bowl caliber team. Saints have had a lot of success. So at what point does the GM of the Saints somehow forget how to do his job?
I think the league has definitely evolved, and again, these teams want to manipulate the cap now. Is he manipulating the cap in the right ways?
Well, they're one of the teams every year where they're like, how the hell did they even find cap space?
They're in cap hell right now. I mean, that's the biggest thing.
They'll restructure Taysom Hill to a phantom $40 million contract again.
It's I would put it at that. Right? It's been a good franchise for the past 10 years. They've had some success. I don't know. I wouldn't take it, but I'm not Kellen Moore.
What are some of the jobs that could be out there next year? Let's just think for a second.
Giants.
I just said watch out, but Cincinnati has another dud year. That's a job that's going to be out there. I'm not going to say Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh. We like to talk about all the time. I'm not.
Maybe Cleveland. I don't think so though. I think I would not fire Stefanski.
Indianapolis is absolutely. If they have a down year, Steichen's out.
Nobody else. I mean, maybe Schottenheimer's one and done.
Yep.
But they could have had more. I mean, they interviewed more.
Yep.
So they could have had him.
Cowboys?
That's what I just said.
You said that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I heard you say Giants. But
I don't think anybody else. Panthers, no, probably not unless it really went south.
Maybe Arizona?
Yeah, if they went south, if they had a really bad season.
Yeah. That's it.
Niners? No. I'm reading a book. I'm reading a good book on the whole Shanahan tree with McVay, and it's a really good book. I'll lend it to you when I'm done. I just started it. Really good.
That sounds good.
It's all about the Shanahan, Bill Walsh. It starts from Bill Walsh to Mike Shanahan to Kyle, McVay, McDaniel. It's interesting. It's real interesting. All right, Jam. Couple of off-season little rumors before we get out of here very quickly. This Giant Stafford thing is really heating up, apparently, because they hired Stafford's brother-in-law to be an assistant coach.
Oh, my God. Okay.
I don't know how to feel. I think at this point, if you trade for him and you obviously keep the 3rd overall pick and you like Shedeur Sanders a lot and you draft Sanders, that's kind of who I'm leaning towards right now, actually, fine. Let Shedeur sit for a year, and you want to try it out with Stafford for a year because they're getting rid of him, be my guest. But I don't necessarily have the appetite for this to be the future plan for the next 2 to 3 years.
And I don't think Stafford, he's not at that point in his career
Why the
yet
hell
where
would
he
he
needs to be a
want it?
bridge quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, we're not talking about Kirk Cousins here. We're not talking about Aaron Rodgers in his current state. Like, Stafford has a couple. This team just won a playoff game and almost beat the freaking Super Bowl champions on the road.
That's the problem I have. I think they could be very good next season.
I think they're running it back.
The defense, yeah, I don't think he's getting traded. Yeah. The defense only got better. They're so young, and they're going to be so much better in 2025. Yeah. They'll get rid of Kupp. They'll replace Kupp. Draft some offensive linemen. You're right back in it.
Yep.
I think you're the favorite to win the division. If you make those small changes, I think you're the favorite to win the division.
In your personal opinion, or in terms of like Vegas odds? Because you know that San Francisco is still going to have good odds next year.
Well, personal opinion, I think depending on what San Francisco does, they have a lot to do. They're going to trade Debo.
They got a
bad cap. Yeah. What are they going to do with Brock? Who the hell knows?
Yeah, I don't know about that. But I mean, McVay. This could be, we're talking about San Francisco versus L.A. McVay could take a Kyle Shanahan route here and do what Kyle Shanahan did with Trey Lance and be like, screw it. I'll let Jimmy G go. I'm a great head coach. I can mold any quarterback into an elite quarterback. Say goodbye to Matt Stafford, draft a quarterback, bring somebody in, whatever he's going to do. I don't think that's a smart move, and I think they have a great relationship. And you're talking about Jimmy G versus Matt Stafford here, big difference.
I would love for them to keep Stafford, draft a guy like Jackson Dart, and get Jackson Dart with McVay, have him sit the year. Stafford, they go back to the playoffs, and then you hand the keys over to Dart in 2026.
That is exactly what I would, and I don't understand why teams don't do this more. If you're a team like the Rams, you pick a quarterback in the mid-level rounds or second round, he's got enough talent where you could mold that guy to being a really good quarterback. You're a team that struggles to find quarterbacks, struggles to develop quarterbacks. You're basically wasting a draft pick by taking a guy who's got mid-level talent, right? That's the difference. It worked for New England when Brady went down. They put Jimmy G in, and they make a career out of it for Jimmy G. Yeah. It worked for San Francisco when they ended up their Mr. Irrelevant outshine their 3rd overall pick. He's a good quarterback now, and it worked for the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, getting Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round and having him take over for Carson Wentz. So I like that idea a lot, actually.
McVay's one of those guys, man. He's unbelievable, and I mean you could give him credit for reviving Baker, too. He could get some credit for that. Baker played well down the stretch and got a chance with the Bucs, and now is their franchise quarterback, and it's fantastic. So, yeah, McVay's that good.
I'm trying to remember when Baker went to the Bucs. Were we having Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask?
We were.
Conversations?
We were. It was like, who's going to start? It's crazy. Competition, and then Baker won it pretty easily out of camp. But, yeah, those conversations were absolutely happening. But at the time, it was justified. I mean, they had drafted Kyle Trask, and it was like, what? He sat behind Brady for a couple of years. Maybe he shows something, but it ended up being Baker. And there was no risk on Baker. He was on a veteran contract.
Football.
What?
Yeah, he is.
He's still in the Bucs.
Yeah, he has. He's got 5 career passing, or 28 career passing yards.
Good for him. Debo is going to be traded as well. He's exploring trade options. Again, this is the same thing with Kupp, and I love Cooper Kupp. But if McVay doesn't want you and Shanahan doesn't want you, I probably don't want you. So they're going to have to pay down a lot, both of these contracts.
I think Kupp's value is less than Debo's. I don't think either of them have much. I think with Kupp, you're talking about a guy who battles injuries. You're talking about a guy who was sort of an anomaly with the Rams, where you knew he was really good, but he was putting up these crazy stats, and they just found a way to get him the ball constantly in this genius system. You know, if he goes somewhere else, his production is going to go down no matter what because of that, because of the change in systems and play style and everything. And then even in that system, he was turning into a rotational receiver at the end of the year.
If he's cheap and you have a good offensive system with a good quarterback, I would take the risk.
You know where I think he would fit in?
Where?
Washington.
Okay.
Washington has one of the best short passing games in the NFL, maybe the best. I mean, they were incredible in the short to medium passing game, especially short. Cooper Kupp would thrive there.
But a team like Washington, if you're going to take one of them, and granted, Kupp is going to come as cheaper. I think they're going to pay down a decent amount. I think of $14 million for this year. If they're paying half of that, you trade a third-round pick for him, whatever the cost is. I don't know what it's going to be. I'd rather do that than Deebo Samuel. I don't want to touch this guy who has been banged up. You don't know where he's best at, what position he's best at. Can he still be a receiver? I don't think so. I want nothing to do with Deebo.
I think you keep him as what he is. You keep him as a guy that comes out of the slot and a guy that you could fill in and use as a gadget player at running back and stuff like that. You keep that sort of same play style. But I think around the league, people view Deebo has a little bit more left in the tank than Cooper Kupp does.
You would trade for Deebo Samuel?
No.
Okay.
But I think if we're just talking about assessing guys a value, I think Deebo has a little bit more.
And finally, the last big rumor before we get out of here. Myles Garrett requested a trade last week. Jam, I think Myles Garrett's going to be an Eagle. That's my prediction.
Wow.
I said I thought it last week, and I think it now. You think another team will be more aggressive?
Honestly, I don't really understand that. You're talking.
Well, they're going to lose
navigating
Sweat.
The cap.
They're going to lose Sweat.
Yeah, but you got a lot of good players on that team. And, they don't have all the cap space in the world, and they're confident in their ability to develop players. You think that they just did the whole Bryce Huff thing last offseason. You think they're going to go try and make another acquisition for a defensive end?
I think he is a psychopath, Roseman.
To me,
if he could fit this in, he's going to do it.
But we got to remember, this is going to be a very competitive trade market.
Yes.
Okay? Not very often do you get defensive players of the year that are still in their prime that can get traded for. You don't think a team that's on the come? I think Detroit will be more aggressive.
Detroit should be more aggressive.
Washington would be more aggressive.
They should.
I think some of these other teams would be more aggressive.
Every team in the NFC North should be.
Yep. Buffalo. You're talking about they want to make up
Buffalo should be more aggressive.
Buffalo should be aggressive.
It's going to be interesting. I'll predict Eagles right now. I'll take the field. No, give me a team. You don't get to just pick the field. Give me a team.
Give you a team.
Washington should be all over this, by the way. All over this. He should be in Washington.
Yeah. Washington.
Okay.
And look out. I'd rank it Washington and Detroit over the Eagles.
Okay. Before we get out of here, very quickly, give me a way, way, way too early. Doesn't even matter Super Bowl prediction 2025.
Oof, that's wholly on the spot. All right, let me think about this real quick.
I have one in my head.
Go.
I'll go Bills Rams.
You just pick the same teams every year. You love the Bills, you love the Rams. That was your story last year.
One more ride for those Los Angeles Rams who almost beat those stinking Eagles.
I don't hate that, actually. I am going to go. Oh, this is really hard.
Bengals.
I do want to say the Bengals.
Commanders.
I kind of want.
I don't think it's the Commies next year. I think the Commies will win one, obviously, but I don't think it's going to be next season.
I'll go Bills, Eagles.
Okay. Bills going to be there. Bills. Oh, I love the Bills. I can't wait.
On.
All right. A lot to get to this offseason. It's going to be a fun one. The draft coming up. I started really looking at Shedeur, JM. I'm really starting to fall in love with Shedeur being the next quarterback of the New York Giants. So more of that as we get set into this offseason. Announcements coming up. We'll make those on social media. JM, anything else?
Nope. Just gonna go watch the Johnny's game. Down by 2.5.
There we go. Johnny's are coming back, and we'll be back next week.